you familiar with the Hantavirus, Agent Mulder?
Yeah, it was a deadly virus spread by field mice in the southwestern United States several years ago.
According to the newspaper, FEMA was called out to manage an outbreak of the Hantavirus. Are you familiar with what the Federal Emergency Management Agency's real power is? FEMA allows the White House to suspend constitutional government upon declaration of a national emergency. Think about that. What is an agency with such broad sweeping power doing managing a small viral outbreak in suburban Texas?
You're saying it wasn't such a small outbreak?
No. I'm saying it wasn't the Hantavirus.
Well, what was it? What was it?
When we were young men in the military, your father and I were recruited for a project. They told us it was biological warfare, a virus.
What killed those men?
What killed them, I won't even write about. We have no context for what killed those men, or any appreciation of the scale at which it'll be unleashed in the future.
A plague?
A plague to end all plagues, Agent Mulder. A silent weapon for a quiet war. The systematic release of an indiscriminate organism for which the men who will bring it on still have no cure. They've been working on this for 50 years. While the rest of the world have been fighting gooks and commies, these men have been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon.
Negotiating with whom?
I think you know.
So the current fear porn is of this so-called Hantavirus, which they say originated on this ship, which I'm showing on the photo right now. I think it's called the Hondias. And this time they're saying that the in quotes virus originated with rats, whereas last time with the COVID scamdemic they said that it came from bats. I think that's what they said initially. They said it came from bats, and then they said it came from a Wuhan lab in China. And of course, I don't believe any of that, but I do believe that there were experiments being done to see if there was a potential for disease to be transmitted between human beings. But when that failed, I believe that they just went with the narrative that there was a disease going around, and they they focused on the narrative of saying that the cases actually a large number of cases established a pandemic, and if I remember correctly, I think they changed the definition of a pandemic in 2009, obviously knowing full well that they would come up with this pandemic in the future. Initially, the definition of a pandemic was that it was a disease that caused many deaths, but then they changed the definition to say it was a disease that caused many cases. So that's why during this pandemic, you heard them talking a lot about cases. Even here in Zimbabwe, where I am right now, we started getting updates on our phones. I was getting text messages on my phone, and so were others. I think almost everyone in the country was getting text messages on their phones telling them how many cases of how many COVID-19 cases there had been that particular week. I think eventually they stopped it because there were complaints that it was a form of harassment. Getting unwanted contact from anyone, even if it's a relative, by the way, can be defined as harassment. And maybe for those who never heard me talk about this, I was actually a police officer in the UK, and you're not supposed to get unwanted contact. Basically, the reason why they were constantly pumping this propaganda about cases, even on TV, was to create fear. And of course, God says several times in His holy word that we should not be in fear of anything. As you saw, the intro video there was from it's a clip from the X-Files where they talk about Hantavirus, and that's a clip is from a long time ago, or that film is from a long time ago, that particular episode. So this is what is actually called predictive programming. They plan these things, and of course, in some of the books that I've read, it said that the papacy, which is the empire that's actually ruling the world right now, according to Daniel chapter 2, chapter 7, and Revelation chapter 13 and chapter 17 and 18. Revelation chapter 18, it says that it's the papacy that's ruling the world. So what I was saying about some of the books I've read, they say that the papacy plans things 50 years to 100 years in advance. So, and of course they control Hollywood, of which the production code for Hollywood was actually written by the Jesuits. There's a book called Jesuit Hollywood, in which you can read all that. I'm not just making this up. So yeah, these things are planned way in advance, but the only problem is the public. We actually tend to pay attention to what the media says without knowing that the media is actually controlled by the Catholic Church. And the objective is the same as usual, is to reduce the population. So if this becomes the next scamdemic, or scamdemic 2.0, if I can call it that, then of course they're going to say that the solution to this problem, this imaginary problem, is for everyone to take a poke. And I'll actually show you some of that in this video. So this is the ship that they say the Hantavirus originated from, and I think they're saying that some of those who were on this ship have been allowed to leave. So as they, according to the story, as those who were on the ship who may have been affected go back to their countries of origin, they are going to spread the disease over there. But of course, that's just Hollywood fiction. There's no such thing. So let me just move on with this slideshow. So this is actually from an X account called Soothsayer, and as you can see from the date there, it's from 2022. The problem with American dates is sometimes they are kind of mixed up. Of course, the year is 2022, but here I think this is supposed to be the 11th of June. They start with the month first and then the day. So it's the 11th of June, 2022. And someone just posted on the X account, 2023 Corona ended, and they're talking about the COVID-19 scamdemic that would end in 2023. In some countries, yes, it ended in 2023. Of course, there was nothing happening. It was just a psychological operation run by the Department of Defense in America for the purposes of reducing the population and introducing transhumanism. But the interesting thing is that this person in 2022 said that there'll be Hantavirus pandemic or in 2026, and of course we're in 2026 now. And I think from what I've heard, other podcasters, YouTube content creators, I think they said this was the only thing posted, or maybe I'm getting mixed up with the fake assassination of Donald Trump. But yeah, it's interesting that this person in 2022 said there was going to be a Hantavirus in 2026. Very, very prescient, of course. But maybe this is someone on the inside who was actually sent to put this up on X. Next thing is very similar to the COVID-19 scamdemic. We have all this imagery of someone who's supposed to be a patient with Hantavirus being loaded onto an ambulance, and we see everyone wearing protective clothing. I can see the nose of a plane there. I don't know if are they trying to say this person has actually been flown to this particular location so they can be loaded onto an ambulance so they can be taken to hospital. I don't know what the full story is. There's no context behind the photo, but of course this is to do with Hantavirus, and it's a similar imagery to what we saw during the first scamdemic. And of course, I'm not saying that the COVID-19 scamdemic was the first one. This has actually happened 4 times now. It happens every 400 years. These are planned events. Like I said, 2 main goals to reduce the population, but on this occasion, now that they've got all this technology, they also want to introduce slowly introduce transhumanism, so that human beings can also fit into the Internet of Things. And I've explained all this many times in my videos. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Let's move on to the next photo. It says here, this is from Nicholas Halsher, I've seen a lot of videos from him on Telegram. He has been exposing the vaccine industry quite a lot. But this article of his, the headline for this article is "The Vaccine Cartel and U.S. Army are developing 13 hantavirus vaccines and gene therapies." So similar to the I was going to call it an issue, but yeah, similar to the problem with ticks in the US at the moment, that there are farmers and even those who are walking in the woods, they're coming across boxes containing ticks. And it's interesting that Pfizer have said that they're developing, I think it's vaccines and other forms of meds to counter Lyme disease, which comes from ticks. So here, now they're saying that there's a problem, but the vaccine industry or the pharmaceutical industry are coming up with a solution, which is vaccines and gene therapies. So of course, I can already predict, because history repeats itself, that they'll say that the solution to this particular problem with this hantavirus is vaccines. Let me just read this here anyway. It says, while the mass media breathlessly covers the MV Hondeus, this is the ship, a Dutch-flagged expedition ship now quarantined off Cape Verde with multiple confirmed hantavirus cases. Few are aware that there are currently 13 documented hantavirus vaccine and gene therapy programs in active development. And in fact, I shared a video. Some of the videos I normally share these very short clips on my BitU channel. Sometimes I don't upload them to YouTube because of copyright issues and stuff like that. But there was a video where I think it was someone from the World Health Organization who said that the next time there's a pandemic, which I like to call scamdemic, is that they will try and produce a vaccine for it within 100 days. So it looks like this kind of falls in to that particular goal of producing vaccines within a short period of time. This article from the BBC, and I'd normally like to call the BBC the British Brainwashing Corporation. It's just a propaganda mouthpiece for the British government. Okay, they are not independent, and they get funds from the British government actually. But let's just read what they have to say. It says, scientists working to create hantavirus vaccine. You see that? And this is from the 7th of May, 2026. So, and then it says here, Moderna stock jumps 10% amid hantavirus outbreak concerns. So of course they are going to make a killing. Pardon the pun. Make a killing from this next a problem that they are creating. Of course, there's actually not. Just to make my position very clear, I don't believe there's anything. I don't believe there's even such a thing as hantavirus. I think the whole thing is made up to scare the public into taking more vaccines, same as what happened last time. This one for Fox News says nearly 40 cruise passengers exposed to a deadly virus may have already scattered across the world. Okay, it's at the bottom here. You can see that photo that I showed you earlier. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to scare everyone. They're trying to scare the public into believing that, oh, look, 40 passengers have already left the ship that I showed you at the very beginning. And I also saw a report that said there's no contact tracing being done on some of these passengers because it was not known that there was a problem of this hantavirus on the ship. But I know it says here, authorities scramble to track them down. You see, they're trying to bring in the issue of contact tracing, that their details were not taken. In fact, maybe it was a mistake to let them off the ship. Now we know that there's a problem with this hantavirus on the ship. They should not have been let go without being tested and all this stuff. Dozens left the MV Hondeus ship without contact tracing. after a hantavirus outbreak that's already killed at least 3 people. Listen, I wasn't on this ship, okay? I don't know anything about anyone dying. This is what we're hearing from the media. But of course, this is the same media that told us last time that there was a pandemic and that everyone needed to be vaccinated with um, with gene therapy or a bioweapon. It's the same media that's giving us the same story. Why should we believe anything they say on this occasion? It goes on to say, the World Health Organization warns that while human-to-human transfer is uncommon, it's still possible. Of course, some of this, this is how they start. In Indo, they can flip the script and start saying that they found that transmission can happen in various ways, like touching someone that someone who is infected has touched, like what happened with this pandemic last time. It says health agencies are now racing to locate passengers across multiple continents before more cases emerge. See, they're talking about cases. It's mostly cases, and also referring to deaths here. But I don't believe any of this. These are just words, and like I say, from the same media that sold us this pandemic last time. And of course, here we have pictures of people, probably not even nurses or doctors, who are wearing PPE, making it look like, oh, there's something going on. Everyone needs to be scared. The only solution to this problem if the government comes in and gives us a poke. Okay. And an article here from the Jerusalem Post said first case of hantavirus diagnosed in Israel after patients visit to Eastern Europe. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it look like this hantavirus is spreading all over the world. So we have a report here from Israel. Like I'm saying, I don't know if this is true. I don't even believe it, to be honest, because this is the same media that sold us this pandemic last time. Next photo. This one is from the 27th of April. I don't know if you can see that, it's quite small here, but I can just tell you that it's from the 27th of April 2026. It says the World Health Organization, which shouldn't even be called a health organization really, says they wrapped up exercise Polaris 2, a 2-day high-level simulation exercise based around an outbreak of a fictional new bacterium spreading across the world, bringing together 26 countries and territories, 600 health emergency experts, and over 25 partners. The exercise, which took place on the 22nd and 23rd of April, allowed countries to test their preparedness for pandemics and other major health emergencies. In fact, before I go on, I wanted to just remind everyone, and maybe this may be useful to some of you who have never heard it. It's actually been said that 2020 to 2030 is a decade of, I can't remember what they call it, it's a decade of pandemics or something like that. I think Bill Gates is the one who said that. Decade of pandemics, and of course they'll say that the solution to the pandemics is vaccines. Okay, just finish reading this. It says these exercises include activating the emergency workforce structures, information flow, and coordination with each other partners and WHO, okay, World Health Organization. And then we've got someone called Chief Nerd here who says 2 people suspected of having hantavirus have been placed in isolation in Singapore. You see, there was a report that in Israel, someone has been diagnosed as having hantavirus. Now they're talking about Singapore to make it look like this is going worldwide, spreading worldwide. But of course, it's about creating fear. And I'll share some texts with you that talk about fear in the Holy Scriptures. I think this is my last slide. It says here, when you realize hantavirus is listed as a COVID jab side effect, as you can see here, hantavirus pulmonary infection. It's actually a side effect of the COVID-19 poke. So sometimes the so-called cure is worse than the disease. I think that's how they say it. The alleged cure is worse than the disease. So it's better not to take part. In fact, the winning move, actually, in all these things that are taking part, whether it even be the war with Iran for those who are in the military in the US or any other country that may be called up to go and fight in the Middle East, and with pandemics and terrorism and even our educational system, the winning move, basically, if you don't want to be deceived and if you don't want to become to be overcome by whatever is coming upon the world, is the winning move is not to take part. Okay. So I said I was going to share some texts with you that talk about fear. Of course, there are many of them, but let's start with Revelation 21. Revelation 21 verse 8. Okay, it says, but the fearful, the fearful, those who are easily scared. It's going to mention a number of different groups here, and listen to what it says. What will happen to these different groups? Excuse me. It says the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and murderers, and whoremongers, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. But the part I want to emphasize, or the group I want to focus on, is the fearful who are mentioned here. The fearful are those who are easily scared. There are lots of people around the world who are probably scared because of this Hantavirus Psyop, and that's what it is. Psyop. The word Psyop just simply means a psychological operation. Okay, it's fake. It's all in your mind for those who believe in it. It's in the media and it's in your mind, but in real life it's not there. The fearful, those who are easily scared or or easily frightened, it says they shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Those who find themselves in this group here, or in these groups that I mentioned here, will not make it to God's kingdom. There's another text I wanted to read, but I haven't memorized where it is. Let me just try and look for it now and see if I can find it. Yeah, so the text I was looking for is Isaiah 35:4. It says, say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you. So don't be fearful. There's actually nothing going on, and whatever remedy is presented to the public, if they say that this thing has gone worldwide, which is obviously going to be false as well, and then they say that the solution once again is going to be vaccines, I can tell you that right away. Don't take part in what's going on. The winning move is not to take part. Okay, if you want to win in this war that's taking place in the minds of everyone around the world, the winning move is not to take part. Okay, but if you take part, you're going to be deceived. And remember, it says that the fearful who accept all the solutions that are presented by their governments, they're going to find themselves in the lake of fire. So yeah, just thought I'd add my 2 cents to what's going on in the world, in case some of you may be wondering what my thoughts are. My thoughts are it's all fake, the same as last time. This is being presented to us by the same institutions that said there was a pandemic last time when there wasn't. Okay, whether it be the World Health Organization, the media, and of course the governments who jump on the bandwagon, and then the churches as well may do the same thing if they change their position and say that this is a threat to everyone's health around the world. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.